And thank you so much for joining us for our Ed Forum today. We are super excited to have Brianna Krebs with us. She is our research communication specialist at the Office of the State Board of Education. And she has been working so hard on putting together this new updated Go On data dashboard. For those of you who joined us on one of our road shows last month, Kate Collins, who's also with us today, she shared some of the Go On data that we had available at that time. And she also kind of alluded to the fact that Brianna was working on this new dashboard. So we're really excited that Brianna can be here today to walk you through it and to show you all the cool features.
I'm Brianna Krebs. I work with the Office of State Board of Education, and today we're going to talk about the newly released data dashboard. It's newly updated, I should say. And then we just updated it last night. So you guys are going to be the first ones to get a presentation on it. So in order to access our dashboard, you want to go to dashboard.boardofed.idaho.gov. And that will pull up our homepage for our data application or our data dashboard. So the first thing I'm going to cover today are the dashboards. And then I will also talk about the reports and publications page a little bit too, because that is a new feature. So underneath the dashboard section, there are three main sections: the post-secondary dashboard, the college-going dashboard, and the K-12 dashboards. The K-12 dashboards are dashboards that are actually not managed by the Idaho State Board of Education Research Office. They're managed by the State Department of Education, but they are really good resources, and we wanted to make sure that people had access to them. So we highlighted them on our dashboard. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the college-going dashboard, because that's probably the most relevant for you guys right now. And then if we have more time, I can also cover some of the K-12 dashboards and give you a little bit of an overview of what you can find on those dashboards. So if you click on the college-going dashboard, what it's going to do is show you college-going data. And the first thing it's going to do is show you statewide numbers for college-going data. So we can see the overall college-going rate. So for the number of students overall in Idaho that have enrolled over time. And we can see how many of those students went in-state versus out-of-state, public versus private school, or a 2-year versus 4-year. And we can see whether or not those kinds of things changed as more time passes after high school graduation. So if we go to this, we can drag it over to within 3 years of high school graduation, and we can see that the enrollment rate does go up as more time passes after high school graduation. So more students enroll as more time passes. So that gives you the general overview of Idaho. We also have the ability to see Go On rates by county. So if you go to the county section, you will see a map of the counties, and red is a lower Go On rate, blue is a higher Go On rate. So we can kind of easily see the areas that have higher or lower Go On rates. And right now we're looking at within 3 years of high school graduation. So I can change that to look at the fall immediate, so that we can see the most recent data. There we go. And so on the left-hand side, there's the map. On the right-hand side, there's a deeper dive into a particular county. So if you're interested in a particular county, you can go select this county and see the data for that overall. Or if you want to be able to see it by school as well, you can see a heat map of all of the schools that are in that particular county. And if you want, you can hover over the map and see detailed information as well on the map. And if you want to be able to change the county that you're looking at, all you have to do is click on it, and it will update it to show you the deeper dive into that particular county that you clicked on. Okay, so if I go to educational region, that's going to show me the breakouts by the different educational regions that we have in Idaho. In Idaho, we have 6 educational regions. And just like we did with the county map, you can see the general map and then a deeper dive into the data on the right-hand side. And this particular one, if you hover over it, you can see how this rate changes over time, and then also how that rate compares to the other counties really quickly. So for example, if we wanted to look at this 43% rate for enrollment in Region 5, and see how that compares to other regions. We can look at that second graph and see that 43% is on the lower end, and that region 2 has the highest Go-On rate. And just like the other one, you can change it to look at data for schools in the region if you just want to look at schools in a particular region, and click on the region to take a deeper dive into that. All right, and then these next two sections can be kind of confusing because we have it says all public districts, and then up here it also says your district. So the reason that those are different is because if you're underneath the statewide section and you look at all public districts, it's not going to have as much data about a particular district. It's just going to look at all of the districts. So if you don't have a particular district in mind, this is the dashboard that you want to look at, because it's going to show you all of the districts. But if you have a particular district in mind, which I imagine you probably do, you want to look at that tab. So keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. But the statewide one, statewide districts one, will show you a map of the districts, just like with the other geographic information that we had before. The darker the blue it is, the higher the Go-On rate, redder it is, the lower the Go-On rate. And if you hover over this, what it's going to do is show you the schools and the Go-On rates of the schools in that particular district across time. And then you can hover over any of those districts to compare them really quickly and click on one of them, and it will take and do the deep dive just like with the other ones. So it's fairly simple, hopefully. And then you can also change the district by using this drop down up here. Now, this district dashboard also has the ability to look at a heat map of all the districts just in general from 2017 through 2021. You can filter and only look at a particular group of districts. And let's say you want to look at the top districts. If you're interested in, seeing what the top districts are or the bottom districts are for Go-On rates, then you can look at the average post-secondary enrollment rates, and it will show you who is at the top. The other thing that is nice about this particular one is if there is an asterisk, that means that there are multiple schools in that district, and you can click on it. And what it's going to do is do a drill down and show you the schools that are in that district. So if you just really quickly want to be able to see the overall district and then take a deeper dive into the schools, you can do it that way. And that is also present on this view as well. So if you're looking at this version, the heat map, you can click on anything that has an asterisk and it will show the schools that are in there. I think that one probably has alternative schools. Okay, so I'm going to go talk about the public high school dashboard, and then we will talk about, we'll switch back to the Your District dashboard. So for right now, the all public high schools, again, is just going to show you all the public high schools data, not provide as much detailed information about a particular school. So it's similar to the districts in that regard. So let's say you are interested in knowing the Go-On rates for rural schools in Idaho. You would want to use this dashboard to find that information out. So you have the ability to filter out by geographic characteristics. So I'm actually going to go filter out by rural. So and select rural, and it's going to think about it a little bit. All right, there we go. And so I have multiple characteristics, geographic characteristics, general school characteristics, like whether or not it's an alternative school, charter school, etc. And then some student characteristics as well. And then if I go down to the actual dashboard section, it will show me the overall enrollment for that school. So for rural schools, they had a 38% enrollment rate on average in 2021. And then I can see all of the schools that count as rural here. And then I can switch this over to just look at a heat map as opposed to a bar graph if I want to be able to do that. And if I want to filter to find particular schools, I can use this filter to find a particular school. All right, so those are the statewide versions. Now we're going to talk about the ones if you're interested in a particular district or a particular school. So if you know what district you are interested in, you want to go to your district, And I'm just going to leave it as West Ada School District, but you select your district up here. And then you can select your time since high school graduation and decide whether or not you want to include alternative schools or exclude them. Sometimes if you're a smaller district, it could potentially change the numbers a little bit more drastically if you include alternative schools. So you have the option of removing those if you don't want them in there and changing the year that you're looking at. So this, similarly to the statewide version, we have a geographic view of the districts, and just like with that other one, you can hover over it and see what the information is for the schools in the district. And yeah, so if I hover over West Ada, they have a ton of schools in there. And you can see all the information for that. And then you can also see for the district how basically where your district sits in relation to other districts for this measure. So we can see that they're a little bit above the middle of the pack in terms of go on rates. And then the more detailed information that's available is you can see where those schools or where their students went in that district. So you can see whether or not they went in state versus out of state, public versus private, or 2-year versus 4-year. And so the top one shows you just overall for the district. And then if you go down, you can see that information for particular schools in the district. So that's the Your School or Your District tab. And now I'm going to show you the Your School tab. So the Your School tab is, again, if you have a particular school in mind and you want to have more detailed information about that school. So I'm going to go select Renaissance High School as an example and press go. If you don't press go, it won't work. So you have to make sure to press go. So on the Your School tab, it's going to show us just information about the schools. So like the other dashboards that we have a geographic representation of it. So you can see the different dots are the different schools that are there, and this star is Renaissance High School. So we can zoom in and kind of see what schools around Renaissance High School, what schools are around Renaissance High School, and the go-on rates of those schools around them. And if you hover over this district shape, it will also show you the information for all the schools in the district as well. And again, this section just shows you where that school sits in relation to other schools. And if you hover over one of the dots, you can see exactly what school that little dot represents and information associated with it, which is helpful because in this case, you know, we have 89% enrollment, but there's only 9 students. So that's maybe not as relevant for Renaissance High School when they have 176 students. So that just gives you a general quick view. And again, just like you can with the district view, you can also see where the students went in a particular school, whether not they went in state versus out of state, public, private, 2-year versus 4-year. And the one that's slightly different for the Your School is that it does show you how different senior classes compare over time. So this is looking at how many senior classes, that the senior classes over time, their enrollment, how it changed. So you can see that it stayed relatively the same except for 2020, obviously. So we see lower enrollment rates for 2020 overall. And then this last section just specifically looks at a particular cohorts or senior class. So we're looking at the senior class of 2020 and how many of them enrolled in the fall immediately after high school graduation versus the first year after high school graduation. So you had 87 students who enrolled in the fall immediately after high school graduation, and then only four students who enrolled a year after high school graduation. So a majority of those students enroll immediately after high school graduation. That's what this little graph can show us. All right, so that's the Your School tab, but we also have this other tab which allows you to see or create your group of similar schools. So the idea behind this is to allow you to kind of say, well, I don't really know if this is actually a good college going rate or if it's a bad college going rate, and I would like to look at schools that are similar to my own. So right now we're looking at the characteristics of Renaissance High School. And if we look at, so I'm just gonna, so we have geographic characteristics like region and locale, as well as the type of school that it is and the size of the senior class, as well as some of the student demographics. So I'm just going to click on one of these. So if I select that, what it's going to do is say, I only want to look at schools that have a similar percentage of economically disadvantaged students as my school. So if I go down here, I'm going to review my similar schools group. So it's going to show me who's in my similar schools group. I have selected, the selected characteristics are going to be listed here. So if you select multiple characteristics, they will all be listed here. And then you can see the groups of the schools that are similar to your school and the schools that are not similar to your school or don't meet those characteristics. Okay, so if we actually look at the data, what it's going to do is show us how your school, which in this case we selected Renaissance High School, compares to the average of schools in your similar schools group, which we selected schools that had a very low percentage of students on free and reduced price lunch. So we can so this is a visual representation of that, and then this is just a table that provides more detailed information when we hover over, just a detailed explanation of what we're looking at. And if you want to be able to download this information, so let's say it's an interesting table for you, then you can download the table and it will provide an Excel file for you with that data in it. And then the next section is basically just, it allows you to actually see the schools that are in there. So this is just an overview, an average. It doesn't allow you to see the schools, but this section allows you to see the schools and where your school sits in relation to others. So when we're looking at Renaissance High School, it's towards the top, and we can see the schools that are even further above Renaissance High School by hovering over and seeing that detailed information there. And if we want, we can also change the year. So we're looking at 2020 data. I want to change this to look at 2021 data. It's going to think about that. So it's 21 percentage points above average. That's crazy. And then the lowest section here, the last section for this, basically just is if you don't want to have to hover over this to see the data and the school that it is, you can just go down to this section and see the school name really quickly by using the scroll bar. So it's just a slightly different view. It's basically the same thing, but a slightly different view. And again, you also have the opportunity to download that data as well if you would like to. All right, so we're almost done with the college going dashboard, almost there. The last thing I'm going to point out with this dashboard is that if you are like, well, this is cool and all, but I just want the raw data. Can you just give me the raw data? That's why we added this little section here. So if you click on that, what it's going to do is give you a download of the Idaho college going data. So you'll have multiple different tabs here. So statewide numbers, district numbers, county, high school. And then an overview of the variables that are used in that data set. So if you are just wanting college going numbers, that's probably where you want to go to get them. Okay, so the last thing I will say about our particular dashboard before I provide an overview of some of the other things that are available in the K-12 side is if you want to provide us some feedback, please do. We appreciate that. You will find that on the bottom, there's a link to a survey, and you can provide feedback on the things that you like, the things that you don't like, and some of the features that you may like to see in the future. So we look at that and kind of determine, where we focus our efforts on developing this. So for example, we had heard in the past that people wanted downloadable data. So that's why we created the downloadable data section. So we do pay attention and we appreciate it. So keep that in mind. Also, if you find something that is wrong with this dashboard, please let us know. You can use the contact us at the research@osb.idaho.gov to reach out to us and let us know something is wrong. I would be shocked if something wasn't wrong because this is newly published and there's always going to be something that's a surprise. So if you do see something questionable, let us know and we'll try to get that addressed. All right, so I am going to talk about the other K-12 dashboards, provide a really crash course overview of some of the resources that are available on the K-12 side for this from the State Department of Education. So if we go up to, I'm actually going to go back to the home page. So if we go to the home page, there are quite a few different K-12 dashboards. So if you go scroll down and you kind of forget what each of those are, if you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a description of the different resources that are available and the different things, like the different purposes that they have. And there's quite a few of them. So I'm going to talk about show you the EVAS dashboard really quick. So if I click on this, it's going to take us to our nice little EVAS dashboard. This is a dashboard that is primarily focused on reporting progress as opposed to a particular measure. So I'm going to go look at the school reports. So I'm going to go to see school value added. And the first thing that you're going to do with this dashboard is select your school up here in the left-hand corner. So I'm going to go select, we'll just leave it as Aberdeen Elementary School actually. But you select your school up there. And you can select the subjects that we're looking at. So right now we're looking at the IRI and the ISAT, but you can only look at one if you want, or if there, there may be other ones available for different schools. And then you can change the students that you're looking at. So if I want to look at fifth graders in 2020, I can change that to look at different students. All right, and so as for the visualization itself, what it does is it basically gives you a quick way of seeing whether or not you are meeting expectations for a particular measure or not, or meeting progress measures. So the further to the right you are, our school is, the better it is, and the less desirable option is the further to the left. So more progress is better. So we can see the subject, the year, and the grade, as well as whether or not we are well above or meeting expectations or below. Now, the other thing that you can do with this is that you can go up here, and I'm actually going to see the achievement. So if I click on achievement, what that's going to do is show me the actual scores. So instead of just giving me a visual indication of progress, it's going to show you the enter and exit achievement scores, the averages of those, I believe. Just the overall enter and exit scores. So I can kind of get a better understanding of what these numbers actually mean. And then if I want to compare this, so let's say I will, if you want to change this, it's kind of confusing. You have to go up here, clear that out. And then let's say I'm going to do New Plymouth Elementary School. And I want to compare that to Fruitland High School. So I'm going to go click on Fruitland High School, and it will show me A is New Plymouth, B is Fruitland, and I have a quick overview of New Plymouth versus Fruitland. And the nice thing about this dashboard is that you can go up to this section over here that says print and print it. So if you want to share this with somebody or keep it for your own records, that is a really good option for that. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to show you about this really quick is if you want to be able to see multiple schools and how they're doing in terms of those progress measures, you can use these comparison reports. So if I click on the comparison reports, go to scatter plots, I'm just going to pick on the IRI. Let's just do across grades in 2021. Now, it's confusing because it just starts out blank. So you have to be able to add the schools. So let's say we're interested in a particular district, schools that are in a particular district. I can go select this, click on that, and it will add all of the schools that are in Joint School District number 2, which is Westdata School District. And it will map the achievement across the bottom and the relative progress on the right, which means, or the left, the left. And so if you have a negative number, that means you're making less progress. If you have a positive number, that means you're making more progress on a measure. And obviously, the further to the right you go on the achievement, the better it is on that measure. So we can see the outliers. So for example, Desert Sage Elementary School looks like it's more of an outlier in terms of achievement. And I can also, if I want, print this out. And if you print this out, the nice thing about this is that it does provide this table so that you can easily see where the achievement measures are for that. And share it with people if you want to be able to share it with people. Okay, so that's all I'm going to cover for the EVAS dashboard. Now we're going to talk about the SDE report card. So the SDE report card has both non-academic indicators and academic indicators, things like enrollment and ISAT scores, IRI scores, and then things like engagement and teacher workforce information. So this is what the SDE report card looks like. If I enter this in, so let's say I want to look at New Plymouth High School, select that. It's going to load and it will show me just an overview of the school and historical enrollment. So if I want to look at just the enrollment for my school, I can learn about that there. And then if I want to look at academic indicators, so for student achievement, if I click on student achievement, it will show me in this case the ISAT scores for New Plymouth High School, breaks out the different mathematics, science, and English language arts. And then you can also do this group achievement indicator right here. So if I click on that, and let's say I want to know how well economically disadvantaged students are or low-income families are doing in my school, I can select that group and see how they compare to other students. And so right now, this is looking at graduation rate and college and career readiness. And you can see it gives this nice indication of, hey, the gap is closing or the gap is growing or not improving. And I can actually see the data associated with that. If you do see an N, it means that there's not enough data for us to be able to share that publicly, because it might mean that we would personally, we would identify some students. So that's not legal. So that's why there's like an N. If you see anything that references like N size like that, that's why. All right, you can also, like I said, look at non-academic indicators like teacher workforce. So the number, like years of experience, percentage of teachers by years of experience, and engagement, which may be interesting if you're interested in knowing if your students are engaged in school or parents are engaged, and whether or not the staff are engaged. All right, so that's all I'm gonna say for that tool. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with it, but that's just a general overview of some of the things that you can do with the report card. You are able to look at academic indicators and non-academic indicators. So the first thing it's going to show you are just like general information about enrollment for your students in terms of the percentages. And there's a couple of group student achievement indicators, and teacher workforce indicators as well. So there's some information about this. Like I said, if you're interested in like ISAT, IRI, and K-12 enrollment, this is a resource that you can use. However, what I will say is I'm not sure how this one's going to fit into the new dashboards that are being developed. So kind of confusing, but there is a new dashboard that is on the way, and it's going to be, we call it the SAS dashboard, and it could have some of these same indicators. So I'm not sure whether or not this one will continue to exist once that new dashboard, which could be released in the next year, will be available. So just keep that in mind, and while you're playing around with this. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I will move on to the Similar District and Similar Schools tool now. So these tools are managed by the Accountability Office in the State Department of Education. And I'm going to go, let's look at the Similar Schools tool. So when you open this up, the first thing that you're going to do is go to, on the right-hand side, you're going to select this dropdown, and we're going to look at Aberdeen Elementary School. So once you select your school, what it's going to do is go grab 5 schools that are similar to your school. So based upon these 4 characteristics, combination of those 4 characteristics. So this first top table will just show you how your school compares to the schools that are selected as your user group or your similar schools group. Based upon enrollment, percentage economically disadvantaged, percent English language learners, and percent with disabilities. If you don't want a particular thing to be included in that calculation in the group of schools that are selected, all you have to do is say, you know what, I don't want similar schools that have like a similar number of enrollments, because that's not as important to me. When you say no, then that will be removed and you will have potentially a different group of similar schools created. The other things that you can change are also if you want to just look at schools that have a similar grade range, or you just want to see schools that have all grades, you can do that as well. And the school type, so this is going to be whether or not you're a virtual school, charter school, or just a regular LEA. And then if you have a 4-day or 5-day schedule, and how far away those schools are from you. So if you only want to see schools that are close to you, then you can use that tool to do that. And then right now we're looking at all students, but you can also break it down by different categorizations as well. And there are multiple different measures you can look at. So if you want to look at graduation rate, which doesn't make sense for elementary school, there we go. English language proficiency, there we go, that's better. The other one that I will point out here is that if you only want to see schools that have a higher performance than you, then you can turn this on and it will only show you schools that have a higher performance. So those dashboards are really similar. So the similar districts tool and the similar schools tool are really, really similar. So if you learn one, you learn both of them. And oh, the other thing that I need to show you on that is if you want to be able to download this, if you go to this on the right hand corner in the download section right here, you can download this as a PDF, and it will just download the view that you have as a PDF, so you can save it and share it with people if you want to do that. So that's what it will look like. Cool. All right, so that I believe, outside of the post-secondary dashboard, which I can show you briefly. So the post-secondary dashboard just provides an overview of post-secondary institutions in Idaho, public post-secondary institutions in Idaho. So measures of dual credit, remediation, retention, graduation, and progress, how much progress they've made, whether or not they completed 30 or more credits. And you can take a deeper dive into each one of those measures. Like I said, I'm not going to do that today because that's not necessarily the focus, but that is a part of our dashboard if you are interested in it. All right, so that was a crash course of all of the dashboard resources that are there, but there's also this new tab that is available if you want to check that out. So this reports and publications tab is a collection of the different resources that we have, that we produce as an office in the State Board of Education. So the first one is the Fact Book. The Fact Book is a publication that is produced primarily for Idaho legislators. And the purpose of it is to basically provide just an overview of data from K-12 all through post-secondary. So it's a good collection of facts and overviews of board initiatives and that kind of thing. That's published every year in January. So the new one will hopefully be published this upcoming January. And then we also have the section, which is annual research reports. These are ones that we are required to do every single year. So every single year, the Idaho State Board of Education has to do an advanced opportunities or dual credit report, state scholarship report, and a remediation report. So if you want to see those every single year, you can come here to this page and get access to them. Then the other section is special research reports. So these are ones that if there is a legislator that has a particular question for us and wants a particular set of analysis done, then we will do that and post that here so you can access and get those answers as well. And then the last section are just data snapshot reports. These are reports that are done for post-secondary enrollment primarily, but we may add additional ones in the future. They're just static snapshots of enrollment at our post-secondary institutions. And then these are just PDFs of those enrollments. All right, so that is a broad overview of our newly developed dashboard.
Oh, yay. Someone says they love it. Yay.
Oh, good.
Oh, someone asked if it is available right now.
Yes, it is available right now. So if you go to dashboard.boardofed.idaho.gov, you should be able to download and check it out. It is live right now.
And hopefully, I love the feature that you guys added where you could download some of those reports. I know for some of you, you probably think like, oh my gosh, my administrator would love this information, or you can think of people in your district who would really love to see that. So please, when we send out the recording, feel free to share it with those people who probably did not attend today and might want more information about this. Go on data for CTE, yes. Is that something, Brianna, that can be separated out like as its own category? Like if you're trying to figure out how many students went into like a CTE program versus maybe an academic program, is that somewhere available?
Do you want me to answer that, Brianna?
Yeah, that'd probably be good.
So the go on data that we get does not include program. So there are limitations to the data that we get and the data that we collect, right? So until there is a more robust data collection from National Student Clearinghouse or even from our post-secondary institutions, there's really no way for us to bifurcate by program, like who went into what. So that's kind of the limitation to that right now and why we don't split them off.
Again, just want to thank you for spending the morning with us. And thanks again to Brianna for your presentation.